And this next gentleman that's about to come speak, we have a lot of vitamin L for as well. We live just about 45 minutes from this man, Dr. Josh Axe.
Dr. Josh Axe, he's a doctor of natural medicine, chiropractic physician, and clinical nutritionist with a passion to help people get well using food as medicine. Go figure. Dr. Axe operates one of the world's largest natural health websites, draxe.com, which has over 7 million visitors a month.
Dr. Axe has been a physician for professional athletes, including traveling to London for the 2012 London Olympic Games. And he also founded one of the leading functional medicine clinics in the country, seeing over 1,000 patients every week in Nashville. Dr. Axe is also a best-selling author of the groundbreaking health book, Eat Dirt, which uncovers the hidden causes and cures of leaky gut syndrome. And he has been featured on many television shows and stations, including The Dr. Oz Show, CBS, NBC, and PBS. Let's give it up for our good buddy, Dr. Josh Axe.
Josh Axe.
Well, it is so great to be here. You know, I've been inspired by so many of the speakers here in this room already. In fact, many of the speakers here, including people like Jordan Rubin and Patrick Quillen, had a really profound impact on my life and my favorite patient's life early on, which I'm going to share with you today. So what I want to do today is go through 7 steps to beat cancer naturally. And these are things that are very, very practical. These are things that we implemented in my clinical practice. And I want to sort of give you a step-by-step overview on some things that you can do practically to beat cancer naturally. And so Ty and Charlene did a great job introducing me, so I'll skip that. But I really want to share with you what got me involved in treating cancer naturally. And it all started with my mom. You know, growing up, my family was always really into physical fitness. So my mom was actually my gym teacher in elementary school, which my memory of my mom growing up was she would send me to the principal's office like every single day. But you know, she was my family. She was the gym teacher at school. She was a swim instructor. My dad was a semi-pro water skier, and so we were really into being fit. But yet at 40 years old, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and this was just shocking to my family at the time. And my family lived in what I would call the medical model during those days. And so anytime anyone was sick in the family, we went to the doctor, got prescribed antibiotics, medications, and that was sort of our life at the time. We really put our faith in the medical system. So when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, immediately, without knowing anything else, she went to see her oncologist, who then recommended chemotherapy and having a mastectomy. So my mom had a mastectomy, and then she went through chemotherapy. And I can still remember to this day, I was in 8th grade, I remember seeing my mom lose her hair. I remember her combing her hair with a pick and just hair coming out in the sink, and actually seeing that as a kid. I remember her losing her hair and thinking she had aged 20 years in 2 weeks, and just saying to myself at that young age, I never want to see anyone have to go through that again. You know, and praise God, she was brought through it and diagnosed as being cancer-free and healthy afterwards. But the truth is, she was really sicker than ever. After my mom went through chemotherapy, she got put on 3 medications. She got put on an antidepressant drug. She was sick and tired all the time. She got diagnosed with conditions such as chronic fatigue syndrome. She started having major digestive issues, chronic constipation. In fact, for a while, she had an average of 1 bowel movement a week for years and years and years. Very, very sick and toxic. So this went on for years. In fact, one of my memories of my mom growing up is that she would get home from work. She was a school teacher, and she would get home, and from 3:30 to 5:30 every day, or 4 to 6 or so, she would have to take a nap because she was so exhausted and tired all the time. And finally, about 10 to 11 years later, I was actually in chiropractic college. I was working as a nutritionist, and I was training in this. And I got a call from my mom, and she says, I've got bad news. I've just been diagnosed with cancer again. And she said, what do I do? And I flew home from Florida. I'm from Ohio, and we sat down, and we all prayed together as a family. And we really felt the Lord leading us to take care of her all naturally. And I was really blessed at the time to have been studying and reading up great books on how to fight cancer naturally and around some great physicians and started talking to them. And so with my mom, I created a whole plan for her on how to beat cancer naturally. And that's really what I'm going to share with you today. But my mom, one of the things that she really didn't understand what health was. In fact, my mom thought that we used to get Juicy Juice and this juice, and we thought, yeah. And I remember on the back it said, contains 10% juice. And we're like, yes, 10%, but like, what's the other 90%? You know, my mom thought Chick-fil-A was really healthy because it was chicken. You know, so we just had no clue. My mom had no clue about nutrition. So we went and we did an entire kitchen makeover with her. And one of the biggest things I realized, and this is something that, you know, I praise God for that experience because the Lord uses all things for good. And with my mom, the big thing I noticed about her, she was just so overwhelmed at the time. I mean, just like deer in the headlights. And so I did everything I could to help hold her hand and walk her through what she needed to do to heal her body. So we did a kitchen makeover. I mean, I went in the kitchen and started throwing away everything out of the refrigerator, everything out of the pantry. We went to the local health food store, stocked up on all new foods. I even went and I got on my computer and typed out her own cookbook. And so I spent several weeks doing this. I went to Kinko's and, you know, put it in her own, you know, got it laminated and gave it to her, and we made her a menu plan and just really laid out what she was supposed to do every minute of the day. Really, she had a very, very specific plan for healing naturally. And so my mom, after going through all this, first off, the physician said the second time she was diagnosed with cancer here, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. They found tumors on her lungs. And they said, okay, we want to go in and do surgery and radiation immediately. And we decided not to do that. So my mom started following this natural protocol. She started using food as medicine. She started taking certain herbs and supplements. She started building joy in her life. And I'm going to walk through all of these things today. And after 4 months, we went back to the oncologist. And he did a CT scan. And he called us and he said, this is incredible. He said, I've never seen this before. Actually, he said, no, this is highly unusual. He said, this is highly unusual. He said, but the tumors have shrunk in half. The largest went from 2.5 centimeters down to 1.2. And then we went back 9 months later, and my mom was in complete remission. And today, So today, my mom is in the best shape of her life. She's in her mid-60s. In fact, she's in her mid-60s. She says she feels better now than she did in her 30s. This is a picture I took on my iPhone about 1.5 years ago. They retired from Ohio down to Florida, live on a lake now. My mom water skis several days a week in her mid-60s. Also, you can see this is her and my dad. She's ran several 5Ks with me in the past few years, got second in her age group in the last race she ran. And now she's cancer-free. She was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. That's completely healed. Digestion restored. She went from 1 bowel movement a week down to 1 every single day. Boosted energy, balanced hormones, joy and peace. And she's in the best shape of her life. And so she really did this by focusing on herself, on healing her body, taking a natural approach, and she's doing fantastic. So what I'm going to do today, again, is walk you through exactly what we did with my mom and some other things I've learned over the years clinically to help her body heal. So step one, we obviously need to remove the toxic foods. And some of the things I'm going to go over are on slides up here. Some of them are, but we obviously know GMOs, as my friend Jeffrey Smith says, GMO, God move over. You know, that's GMOs today. I know it's a brilliant quote. Genetically modified foods have the DNA of different viruses and pesticides and herbicides wired in there. We know that pesticides and herbicides are carcinogenic. They are cancer-causing. And the biggest thing you need to be aware of with genetically modified foods is not just the GMOs of things such as soy, canola, cottonseed, soybean, but it's also of conventional meat products. You know, most livestock today, chickens, cattle, they're fed genetically modified corn in high doses, so you have to be aware of that as well. But genetically modified organisms cause cancer. The next thing here is pork and conventional meats. Now, I put pork up here specifically, not just because it's referenced in the Bible for being a toxic meat, but the bigger thing is that even today, we know that the anatomy and physiology of pigs is that they store toxins, especially parasites. You know, we want to get rid of all bad and damaging microbes and load up on good microbes within the body. So pork is the largest carrier of parasites of any animal out there today. And if you have cancer specifically, pork is the worst. After that, it's going to be shrimp. Actually, they're highly toxic as well. And along with that, just staying away from conventional meat. You know, I was reading a study recently on conventional dairy, and there was a study out of Spain. They found the average glass of milk, so you go to your local grocery store, grab a gallon of milk, has over 21 different medications and chemicals in it because of what they're giving the cow. Today, cows are injected with antibiotics, not to treat illness, but as maintenance, which is absolutely crazy. You know, 80% of the antibiotics given in the US today are not given to humans. They're actually given to our livestock, 80% of antibiotics. So you may think, well, I haven't taken an antibiotic in years. How much antibiotic residue are you getting through eating conventional meat products? So there's no doubt that conventional meat is highly toxic. Chemicals and hormone disruptors, estradiol, different type of other hormone medications, especially also antifungal medications. These are all in conventional meat products today. You want to stay completely away from conventional meat. And these are two big things we immediately got out of my mom's diet. The other thing, obviously, is refined sugar. I know everybody has talked about the damaging effects of refined sugar today. And I want to mention a few things. I'm going to talk about sugar here and dairy specifically. And this is something I doubt anyone has really touched on. But when you look at this sort of environment that cancer cells thrive in Chinese medicine, they call it a damp environment. Okay, in Chinese medicine, a damp environment. This is the sort of environment that candida flourishes in, that cancer cells flourish in. So when you look and study Greek or Chinese medicine, or Eastern medicine, typically they're using food as medicine to help get your body into a perfect state to where candida and cancer and these different types of organisms can't thrive. It's bringing your body into balance. So your body can either be too dry or too damp. It can be too hot or too cold, and you can have too much movement or too little movement. Too little movement's known as stagnation. When you have cancer, typically your body is too damp and it's too stagnant. Your liver is stagnant. Things aren't being flushed and cleansed out of your system. And think about this, if you go into a home that has mold growing in it, it's typically, this is most common in areas like Florida, right? It's a very damp, humid environment. What we want to start doing is we want to reduce dampness. So foods that are bitter in nature and astringent in nature actually dry up and reduce dampness in the body. I'm going to get into some of those foods here. But here's what you have to know as we're talking about toxic foods. Conventional dairy is the most dampening food out there today, and then it's sugar. Conventional dairy and sugar are highly dampening to the body, and then wheat products. Imagine that, those three things highly dampening the body. We need to start drying out the body in order to get it into a state to where cancer cells cannot thrive anymore. So refined sugar obviously feeds candida and all these things within the system. And by the way, I don't think sugar is necessarily the biggest villain in the world. I think the problem is that it feeds dampness, feeds candida. But I think if your body gets in the right state, you know, sugar from things like blueberries, if it's in a whole food form, is not the most damaging thing in the world, of course, if you are eating it in a whole food form. Artificial sweeteners, you know, obviously are highly toxic to the body, especially to the nerve system. And then hybridized wheat, you know, getting too many refined grains. And part of the reason we have an issue with refined grains today is, again, it's contributing to this dampness into the body that allows things like candida and cancer cells and different types of funguses to grow within your body. So getting rid of hybridized wheat. Also, it's highly inflammatory. In my book, Eat Dirt, I really get into how to heal this condition called leaky gut syndrome. And my mom, this is one of the things we pinpointed with her. In fact, think about this, my mom having one bowel movement a week for years. Even growing up, we started going back and seeing my mom when she was young used to worry and have anxiety and fear. And all of those things contributed to her cancer. And so as we're talking about this with hybridized wheat, it's not just hybridized wheat, it's refined grains. Getting all refined grains out of the diet because these contribute to dampness. I'm not saying some, you know, sprouted rice and quinoa cooked for a long period of time in a slow cooker can oftentimes be beneficial, but really starting off getting rid of all grains and then over time moving over to only sprouted long cooked grains, and then hydrogenated oils. We know that inflammation is a major driving factor that causes cancer here today. So really getting rid of these hydrogenated oils that cause inflammation of the gut lining. And I just want to talk about leaky gut for just a second here. Leaky gut is this. It occurs when, leaky gut occurs when your gut lining gets holes in it that become too large. Essentially imagine this. You have your bloodstream, you have your intestines. Your gut lining is responsible. It's kind of that barrier in between the two. What can happen over time if you have too much inflammation of the gut lining? It can kill off beneficial microbes. Candida can start to line and other types of pathogenic microbes, and they actually produce poisons that eat away at the gut lining. When that gut lining opens up, it allows undigested food protein particles and proteins such as gluten and casein to leak through that gut lining wall. It allows toxins, it allows bad bacteria. When that happens over time, it will cause systemic body inflammation. Over time, that can also lead to autoimmune disease if that inflammatory and immune response isn't corrected really early on. So again, leaky gut syndrome, I really believe, Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, all disease begins in the gut. And I believe no matter what you're struggling with, it's so important to get your digestive lining healthy, which we'll talk about here. So step 2, you've got to transform and change your diet. One of my favorite foods for healing the body, and this is something my mom drank as part of her natural protocol, was chicken broth specifically. There's a great study out of the University of Nebraska Medical Center where they actually found that those that consumed straight chicken broth had lower incidences of cold and flu, or it shortened cold and flu time. We know that bone broth contains the amino acids proline, glycine, hydroxyproline, and glutamine. Today, most of us are getting way too much protein from muscle meat. We're getting very little proteins or amino acids from cartilage, organ meats. Our ancestors used to eat organ meats like liver. They used to do bone broth on a regular basis. These are things that we are completely deficient in our diet. So we're getting all of these proteins that are good for building muscle. We're getting very little of these proteins and amino acids that actually help with detoxification. One of the reasons I love bone broth is it contains an amino acid called glycine. Glycine helps with liver detoxification. So in terms of, and also it's great for muscle sparing. It's the easiest form of amino acids and proteins to digest. Bone broth, an incredible healing food, high in potassium when it's done right. This is something my mom did all the time. Vegetables. When I think about my mom's plate, what she ate, I would say almost 2/3 of it was made up of vegetables. Juicing vegetables on a regular basis. I'm a big fan of Gerson therapy. In general, just juicing is great. Carrots are actually great for the liver specifically. Parsley and cilantro are as well. Cucumber, celery. So I don't recommend any type of fruit juice. I recommend doing, for the most part, all green juices along with a little bit of carrot or beet. But juicing vegetables, this is flooding your body with nutrients in terms of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, so vegetable juices, cooked vegetables. And if you don't have digestive issues, raw vegetables, if you do have digestive issues, I recommend vegetable juices and cooked vegetables. But this is really a big part of what her diet was like. The next thing here is she followed part of she actually did a Budwig mixture drink. We would drive out in the country and get this goat's milk kefir or cottage cheese and mix that with flax meal and flax oil. Now, there's some great research behind the Budwig in terms of it really helping support cellular energy and helping heal the body that way. And I'll say this, that dairy specifically, that's conventional milk, is very dampening to the body. If you're doing just a small amount of a goat's milk kefir or goat's milk cottage cheese, it's really not an issue. And for my mom who had chronic constipation, one of the other things we knew is she was so deficient in probiotics. And this is why we did some of the sprouted flax meal, a little bit of kefir, actually as part of her cancer protocol. And then again, I mentioned vegetable juice, an important thing everybody should be getting. Wild-caught salmon. My mom did not eat a lot of meat on this. Wild-caught salmon, wild-caught sockeye salmon specifically. We know wild-caught sockeye is very high in omega-3 fats and astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is a very, very powerful fat-soluble antioxidant that can really help protect the body. It's so important when you have cancer that you're getting a large amount and various amount of different types of antioxidants within the body. So again, wild-caught salmon. And then really also, she didn't do much fruit, but the thing she did is blueberries. Really, blueberries and raspberries were really the only fruit she would tend to consume. But again, we're talking about a high amount of antioxidants. You know, blueberries also in. It's herbs and spices. This is something myself and a good friend of mine, Jordan Rubin, we do a weekly Facebook Live broadcast. And during that broadcast, we're always talking about deficiencies and certain things people should be getting in their diet. But herbs and spices are the biggest thing missing in our diet. I have an acupuncturist who's from Israel. And him and I are always talking about, you know, when he goes to Israel or if you visit other countries, when you walk into somebody's home, typically that's from from the East, whether it's India or China or Israel, you walk in their house and you smell the food, right? I mean, you smell herbs, whether it's in their market or in their home. For us, we use very little herbs and spices. These are the most powerful cancer fighters in the entire world, hands down. I mean, remember this, and I say this all the time, food is to be medicine. And we should be using herbs generously. Anytime you eat a meal, every single meal, add some herbs and spices. For breakfast, add some cinnamon and clove and nutmeg to a smoothie. Those have anti-cancer properties. You know, for lunch, if you're making a salad, just sprinkle on some turmeric. If you're making yourself some hummus, put in some cumin in there. Add in herbs and spices to every single dish you make. You're making chicken in the evening, hey, rosemary and basil and oregano and thyme. We're talking about all of those herbs have powerful anti-cancer properties. We know cilantro specifically is beneficial at detoxing heavy metals. In fact, there's several medical studies showing it actually can protect your body from radiation damage, also supports detoxification of lead and arsenic and heavy metals. Parsley. Parsley is more nutrient dense than kale. It's very high in potassium. It helps flush toxins out of your body. Very high in chlorophyll, helping alkalize your body. Turmeric, we know, contains curcumin, probably the most clinically researched compound out there today. And cinnamon contains cinnamaldehyde, a compound that actually helps balance insulin levels. This is really important in estrogen-based cancers or hormone-based cancers, keeping insulin levels balanced. And cinnamon is absolutely fantastic for that. And cinnamon and clove rank as two of the top 3 herbs in terms of their overall ORAC score or antioxidant capacity. Very powerful. I want to touch on some of the supplements my mom took as well here. One was medicinal mushrooms. By the way, I don't know if you guys have heard the story about the mushroom who went to a party in the refrigerator. There were a lot of fruits in there, some vegetables, some herbs, and the mushroom went into the refrigerator, and everybody made the comment. They said, wow, he's a really fun guy. So I don't know if you guys got that, but. All right. Medicinal mushrooms. Now, in Chinese medicine, reishi mushroom is known as, actually making a mixture of that, a lot of times it's known as the elixir of immortality. Reishi mushroom is very, very powerful in its anti-cancer properties. In fact, I was reading an article just this week on its ability to fight breast cancer specifically, and estrogen-based breast cancer. So again, reishi mushroom. And this is a supplement. My mom took medicinal mushrooms, a combination formula, when she had cancer. Reishi mushroom, very powerful. Cordyceps, very powerful. And shiitake is, the thing I like about shiitake is that it's available in your local grocery store. You can make a miso mushroom soup with this. I love doing a little bit of actually chicken broth, some miso for all of those, the Bacillus subtilis and the certain types of probiotics in there, as well as some shiitake mushrooms. But mushrooms were a base of Chinese and Eastern culture, using those in soups and stews on a regular basis. And mushrooms are incredible in terms of their ability to detoxify and modulate the immune system. You know, I've read several articles online that are pretty incredible when you look about how mushrooms can actually cleanse the earth. If there are certain heavy metals and toxins that are tainting our soil and polluting our soil, mushrooms actually have the ability to cleanse, actually break down those compounds and really cleanse the earth and soil. They have the same effect on your body. They can actually cleanse your body. They're also very effective at acting as prebiotics and helping probiotics and good bacteria grow within your system. So medicinal mushrooms, some of the most powerful forms of natural medicine that are out there today. So next slide we're going to go over here as well, some medicinal mushrooms, a few other supplements that can be very powerful at naturally fighting cancer. You know, one of the biggest is going to be vitamin D3. You know, in vitamin D3, I recommend that you get your vitamin D by getting out in the sun every single day. That should be number one. If you cannot get out in the sun that day, doing at least 10,000 IUs a day of vitamin D3. In fact, I was reading an article recently, or a medical study as well, that said when you consume vitamin D, your body starts producing actually over 200 antimicrobials that actually fight and kill off pathogenic bacteria like candida and cancer within your system. Vitamin D is powerful. Probiotics are essential. Remember this, you are not what you eat, you are what you digest. Here's a problem. If you have a health condition and you are taking all of these vitamins and supplements, I'll tell you a quick story. I had a patient come into my clinic who had multiple health problems. And she actually came in, I remember, I thought she was maybe doing shrugs. She had these 2 big bags from Whole Foods of vitamins and supplements. She was taking 90-some pills a day. And she came into me, and I said, finally, after going through all this stuff, I just was blown away by how many things she was taking. I said, ma'am, you have really expensive urine. I said, you are probably digesting a very small amount of all of these different things you're taking. I said, let's go ahead and not take 1 million things. Let's take 5 or 6 things. And one of those big things was probiotics. You know, and so she started doing probiotics. I had another patient who was getting vitamin B12 shots every day for 2 years. She was struggling with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, chronic fatigue, a number of health problems. And she came into my clinic, we started changing her diet, doing bone broth, loads of probiotic-rich foods, and then a soil-based organism probiotic. So she started doing lots of probiotics. After 3 months, she went back and did a micronutrient test, got her vitamin B12 levels checked and vitamin B levels, and they were completely normal for the first time she had seen in 8 years. And here's the thing. You can take vitamin B12 shots all day. You can try and pump in vitamins a different way. If you're not absorbing and digesting these things, your levels will never be normal. There was a great study out of Stanford recently they did on patients, and they gave them, actually it was supposed to be a weight loss study for people that had lap band surgery. But in the study, they also looked at other markers, and they were blown away that when people supplemented with a probiotic for just 3 months, it increased their vitamin levels, specifically vitamin B12, by 49% in just 3 months. So think about that. A lot of times we think, okay, I just got to take more vitamins and supplements. The problem is probably more likely that you're not absorbing anything. Increasing your body's ability to absorb, digest, and assimilate nutrients is even more important than the exact supplement you're taking. So if somebody said, what's probably the one supplement that everybody should be taking, I really believe taking a good quality probiotic is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, all probiotics are not created equally. You want to look for a probiotic that has very resilient strains. Bacillus species such as Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus clausi, also beneficial yeasts like Saccharomyces boulardii, and then Lactobacillus plantarum, which is a probiotic that is actually found in things like sauerkraut today. Very, very powerful as well. So again, probiotics, a powerful supplement at increasing nutrient absorption. And most of the time I'll say this, I think people should probably be taking a triple dose of probiotics. What it says on the label, we should probably be taking 3 times that because we're so bankrupt and deficient. I really believe this is one of the things that transformed my mom's health. Green tea extract, there's a great study on green tea being combined with hot peppers. You know, one of the unique things about hot peppers specifically, whether it's cayenne like capsicum and some of the compounds in there, is that it has an ability to warm the body. You know, there's also studies on turmeric and black pepper. And what happens is when you're doing a hot, spicy compound, it actually opens up the cardiovascular system and allows many of these beneficial compounds to then get into your bloodstream and be dispersed systemically throughout your entire body. So cayenne pepper, black pepper, other warming herbs like ginger. And by the way, these herbs are also fantastic because I mentioned earlier, a lot of people tend to be too damp in their body, which builds up this candida and yeast. If you're also too cold, your body is too cold, then what happens is, herbs like ginger are astringent and warming, so they actually also help dry up some of that dampness by naturally warming the body. So another great thing as well. But green tea, herbs like turmeric, combined with cayenne pepper and black pepper and these other warming herbs, a very, very powerful combination that naturally fights cancer. And then spirulina and chlorella. I want to tell you a symptom my mom had after she changed her diet. So my mom started using all these supplements I have written down here. One of them she started doing was chlorella. We had her start doing chlorella and green drinks every single day along with her juicing. And after a couple weeks, my mom she came to me and she actually, one day she threw up. She started throwing up this sort of green-black substance. And she was like, is this normal? I said, absolutely. I mean, your body is finally detoxing for the first time. Also, after 2 weeks, she started having bowel movements every single day after following this diet. So again, these are things that absolutely can help support the body healing. In fact, there's also a great study on chlorella showing that it actually can help the body protect it from benzene and radiation. Also has very strong protective and detoxification properties. Step 4, essential oils. This is one of my absolutely favorite topics to talk about, is the power of essential oils. You know, so essential oil, all right, essential oil fans, great. So, now, essential oils have been used for thousands of years. They're referenced more than 300 times in the Bible. They were used in Middle Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, Indian medicine. Essential oils are powerful. Essential oils are created by sending a hot steam through a plant and basically separating the oil compounds from the water compounds, but it's not just that. It's not just the oil. It's the very small oil compounds that are about 1,000 times smaller than, let's say, like an olive oil compared to essential oil or a coconut oil. We're talking about the molecules are about 1,000 times smaller of essential oil. So the great thing about essential oils is they are transdermal. They can pass into the skin. The other incredible thing is many of them can pass through the blood-brain barrier. They are so small, and so when you walk into a room and somebody is making, let's say, like using peppermint or turmeric and you smell that, what you're actually smelling, or let's say you walk by a pine tree and you smell that pine smell, those are essential oil vapors coming directly out of that plant source, and they're known as the essence of the plant. Essentially, traditionally they were thought of being sort of that spirit of the plant, or in biblical times it was called pneuma, which actually means breath of life. These plants are giving off their life. So my number one favorite essential oil for fighting cancer is frankincense essential oil. You know, frankincense contains some unique compounds such as alpha and beta pinene, which have very strong astringent properties, help modulate the immune system, but directly affect and kill cancer cells. So again, frankincense is very, very powerful for that reason. Myrrh essential oil, this may surprise people. Myrrh does not get as much press as frankincense oil, but in a recent medical study, this was done in actually a journal, you can look this up, called the Oncology Letters. In that medical journal, they found when they compared frankincense and myrrh, myrrh was actually even more powerful in that study at fighting cancer. The anti-cancer benefits of myrrh was profound. Now, they didn't study the type of frankincense, which is, I believe, is most powerful, called Boswellia farina. But again, I believe that those two in combination, actually another study was done using those two together, and they showed they had synergistic effects at fighting cancer. So as a natural cancer protocol, I'd recommend using frankincense and myrrh together. My favorite way to do those, do a couple drops on your thumb and rub it on the roof of your mouth. Reason being is your sinus cavity is connected that way through your respiratory tract and brain from the roof of your mouth. And so again, it's a great way, especially if somebody is struggling with a brain tumor and wants to reduce neural and brain inflammation. Frankincense and myrrh have very strong anti-inflammatory properties. It's a great way to get into your system. You can also use it topically, several drops. You just rub it. I like rubbing it on the lymph nodes in the front of the neck or the area of concern. Also, lemon oil. Lemon contains D-limonene, a powerful compound with anti-cancer benefits. And the great thing about lemon oil, as well as other citrus oils don't come from the flesh of the citrus, they come from the peel. And we know that herbs or compounds such as bitter orange were used in Chinese medicine. That was the #1 herb used to help dry the body. If somebody was too damp, bitter foods. Think about that, like the bitterness, if you've ever tasted that of an orange peel, that bitterness helps dry out that dampness, so where there's an environment now that cancer and candida and bad microbes can no longer live. So again, lemon oil and citrus oils that come from the peel have very strong benefits at helping getting your body into that perfect state, as well as they're very beneficial at helping break down fat. It actually helps your body in releasing bile, which supports detoxification. So your liver, when it releases bile, sort of also releases and dumps toxins that your body can get rid of. As well as it's also great for draining your lymphatic system. So if you have lymph nodes that are swollen, a little bit of lemon oil in a warm or hot tea is an absolutely fantastic thing to do to naturally help cleanse the body. Another herb I love, this is another one that doesn't get much press in terms of its benefits in terms of an essential oil and an herbal extract. But I think in the future, one of the most powerful oils that people are going to start using is going to be thyme oil. And it's about time we use more thyme, right? So thyme contains a unique compound called thymol, and it has powerful anti-parasitic and antifungal benefits and antiviral benefits. It's one of the most powerful antivirals out there today. The two herbs that were most renowned that have thymol include oregano and thyme. And thyme is very powerful, again, sort of killing off those bad microorganisms. So doing thyme, in fact, I love just doing a few drops of thyme oil in a chicken soup or diffusing it, taking deep breaths in and out. But thyme, especially if somebody has candida or a bad type of fungus in the body or mold or those sort of things, thyme is very, very powerful. Lavender oil is another great one. You know, one of the biggest things I'm going to get into here in a minute is we want to reduce stress and lower cortisol levels. Lavender oil has been shown in so many medical studies to help improve sleep and insomnia. You know, your body heals while you're sleeping. One of the things my wife and I, Chelsea, do, we have a diffuser by our bed, and we diffuse an oil blend of lavender oil and Roman chamomile and ylang ylang. We do that before bed. One of the things I've had my patients do for years as well is do a healing bath at night. They take 1 cup of Epsom salts or magnesium oil, but Epsom salts are loaded with magnesium. It's known as the relaxation mineral. Doing that in a warm bath with about 20 or 30 drops of essential oils, such as you can do just lavender, or you can add in other oils like frankincense, and just laying there in the tub for 20 minutes, taking deep diaphragmatic breaths while you're in the tub, just relaxing, winding down. It is one of the most therapeutic things you can do, preparing your body to sleep, to start to heal, because that's ultimately, your body is fighting cancer in the largest way when you are sleeping. During that time, it is critical to get good sleep. And ginger, you know, ginger is powerful as an essential oil. You know, ginger as an herb contains gingerols and zingerbean. Zingerbean is actually a really powerful proteolytic enzyme. Ginger also contains, I mentioned, gingerols and other compounds that have anti-cancer benefits. These are some of the best essential oils to use. And again, I recommend using them topically, rubbing them on your body. I recommend diffusing them, and many of these using internally as well in a clinically studied dose. Typically just 1 drop internally is enough. You don't want to go overboard with this. And I also recommend taking this with food. Also, myself, Jordan Rubin, and Ty have a book coming out this December, actually Black Friday, and it's called Essential Oils, Ancient Medicine, where we go through all essential oils, how to use them, what's best for what health condition. Another important thing my mom did in naturally healing her body was cleansing. This is something also I've had my patients do now for years. This is something myself and I know other people, again, I've mentioned Jordan Rubin several times. This is something we recommend as part of our Facebook live feed. But doing a mixture, here's a cleanse. If you want to do the ultimate cleanse, here's what I'd recommend. You only consume 3 things: vegetable juice, bone broth, and then herbal teas. Okay? So vegetable juice. So the vegetable juice is going to be carrot juice, cucumber, also celery, and then cilantro, parsley, lemon peel, or just a full lemon or lime in there as well, and then herbs such as turmeric and ginger. Doing that juice every single day, and then also drinking just cups of straight chicken broth, nothing added, regular chicken broth. You can make that in a crock pot at on home, or you can do the powder, just the plain or turmeric powder. Do that just in water, and then herbal tea. My favorite herbal teas are my 2 favorite liver cleansers, which is so important that we're boosting and tonifying that liver cleansing ability. Milk thistle contains silmarin, which actually helps detoxify the liver. And then one that many people haven't heard of, this is probably up there with milk thistle, it might even be more powerful, is bupleurum in Chinese medicine. It actually helps tonify and strengthen the liver's ability to release and get rid of toxins. Very powerful combination there. I want to talk about a few natural treatments. Lymphatic massage. This is something my mom got done when she had cancer. And if somebody has cancer today and I'm working with them, I recommend they get lymphatic massage with essential oils, just using coconut oil and essential oils on the body. Actually, as part of this book that Jordan, myself, and Ty are writing, we have a therapy in there called BHW. It's called By His Wounds. There are 7 specific oils used as part of this light massage done on the body to help naturally heal the system. So again, lymphatic massage, very powerful at releasing those lymph nodes, relaxing the body. And I'd recommend using essential oils such as frankincense and myrrh, rosemary, lavender, peppermint up and down the spine, and thyme in those areas as well. Barefoot walking in the sun. You know, we know my mom needed vitamin D, and there are powerful benefits of planting your feet on the earth. So again, walking barefoot is so powerful, but especially getting sun. I mean, 20 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight every day, boosting up those vitamin D levels, and then more sleep and vacation time. You know, one of the biggest things I noticed about my mom, she was so emotionally stressed. So emotionally stressed. She was a school teacher, working a lot. Her and my dad went and planned out several more vacations that year, more time off, and just getting better sleep at night. I mean, this was something we really focused on, is her just having more joy in her life. You know, a rebounder, this is the type of exercise she did. We got her a mini trampoline, and she would jump and down 10 minutes every morning, 10 minutes every evening. She would get light dumbbells, but she did her workouts on a mini trampoline, great for lymphatic drainage. And then also another thing I recommend people do is do yoga and deep breathing. And really just getting out and moving, getting out in nature, but deep breathing is powerful. Most of us are chest breathers. If you want to support your detoxification organs, most of our diaphragms are actually kind of locked up, and they almost don't work right. We haven't used them, so they're kind of like sitting there in spasm, haven't been used. Doing deep breathing in and out, and really just holding your hand 5 minutes at night. You hold your hand here on your lower pelvic region, and you take deep breaths in and out. You almost want your entire lower area here. You want to breathe in your lower back and your lower abdominal area. Practice deep breathing 2 minutes before you go to bed and 2 minutes right when you wake up in the morning is a great way to naturally detoxify the body. The last step, this is the most important step by far, spiritual restoration. Certain toxic emotions cause cancer. You know, Chinese medicine, they've studied this stuff for over 3,000 years, okay? And so they really know that certain emotions cause cancer and disease in specific organs. You may not have known this. Did you know the emotion of fear can cause disease and cancer in your reproductive organs, your adrenal glands, and your kidneys? Think about this. So think about this for me. If a child gets really scared, right, what happens? He can wet himself, right, or she can wet themselves. That happens when somebody has fear. They wet themselves. Why? Well, fear affects the kidneys and the bladder, right? And the reproductive organs. That's what happens. So fear causes that issue. Same thing, if you are dealing with the emotion of fear, the most common area that's going to show up in your body is the adrenals, the kidneys, and your reproductive organs. Also, often breast cancer is here. My mom had a lot of fear in her life. Fear of what other people thought about her, fear of failure, fear of disappointing others. We had to combat that fear head on. So again, fear causes disease in those organs. Worry, that actually affects the stomach, the spleen, and the pancreas specifically, should be up there as well. But when somebody has pancreatic cancer or stomach or spleen, oftentimes that's caused by worry. Grief and depression affect the lungs and the colon. Grief, depression, somebody had sadness. This happens often. If somebody has lost a loved one or a spouse or a child or has been through a divorce, has a really emotionally trying time, that typically really affects the immune system, which is the colon and the lungs. Anxiety and nervousness affects the heart, the brain, The nervous system, actually the nervous system can also be related to frustration and anger, but anxiety and nervousness in the small intestine, and then frustration and anger affects the liver, the gallbladder, and the lymphatic system, as well as, I would say, unforgiveness. Unforgiveness affects the liver, which is your body's main detoxification organ, more than anything else. And my remedy is this, which I'm going to share with you. And I know everybody has different religious beliefs and religious backgrounds. I'm just here to share with you what my mom did to fight cancer, what I recommend my patients do to fight cancer. If I were diagnosed or someone I love, this is exactly what we would do. And so for me in my life, I really believe that turning to God is really the best thing you can do to fight cancer, because ultimately, you know, He's our source, He's our creator. He can heal you in an absolute instance. And I believe that, you know, for one of the things my mom did, and I'll tell you this is the most powerful thing she did, she got out a recorder and she recorded herself saying healing scriptures. She listened to it 10 minutes before she slept every night. She put it in bed and listened to these headphones. And first thing when she woke up in the morning, and I recommend my patients do it, the first thing you do is you get grateful and you just start praising God. You put your hands in the air, you start singing, you start saying everything you're grateful for. Thank you. So what I would do very practically is, if you know you're struggling with one of those emotions, go up and look. And it doesn't have to be Bible verses. It can be positive quotes or affirmations. You can make your own affirmations. But I would do those. I would write those down, and then I would quote in a headphone, listen to it every morning, every night. Fear. You know, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? If God is for me, who can be against me? When you're meditating on that, it's powerful. Jesus overcomes fear. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. These are Bible verses to overcome fear. Meditate on these. It says this in the Bible. Meditate on these day and night. You want to overcome anxiety? Jesus says, cast all your anxiety, all your cares upon Him. Meditate on these scriptures. Jesus resolves anger. You know, it talks about this in the Bible. When you focus on you're not in control, God's in control. You can only do your best. God is going to heal you. Last thing here, a few more things. Anger. Jesus helps us overcome grief. It says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And then if you're worrying, turn to Jesus. Actually, reading Matthew 6 every day. And of course, by His stripes, by His wounds, we are healed. The last thing I want to show you practically here in the last 10 to 20 seconds is this is my mom's health plan. This is specifically what she did to beat cancer naturally. 8 a.m. every morning, woke up and had a warm glass of herbal tea with lemon juice and took probiotics. She practiced an attitude of gratitude every single morning and listened to those headphones. She consumed a green drink or green juice every single morning. She exercised, or she actually had a horse. She bought a horse, went out and rode her horse or did her rebounder. She ate a large superfood salad, drank fresh pressed vegetable juice, took a long walk outside, or got a lymphatic massage, or got a chiropractic adjustment, did a warm bowl of bone broth soup. Here's the other thing. My parents stopped watching the news, and we had a rule in our house, they only watched funny movies. I mean, it was her goal to laugh every single day, and finally, 10 p.m. at bedtime, she listened to those healing scriptures that she said in her affirmations for 15 minutes. So again, a few resources here. I have an essential oil guide on my website, draxe.com, essential oils. You can visit my website, draxe.com, or check out my book. I want to say it has been an absolute pleasure and honor. I want to thank Ty and Charlene for having me. Have a blessed week, guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, brother.